Under Hawaii law and the laws of all the states, there are three primary duties that directors have and officers have. And in some situations, a staff member who's responsible for money and assets may also have, even though they're not on the board. These three duties are sometimes referred to as fiduciary duties. Fiduciary means basically someone that is operating in trust for the property and assets of another. So as the board member or the controller or president of an organization, you are holding that organization's money in trust and handling it for them. So you have a fiduciary responsibility to the board that you're sitting on in the organization. The first duty you have as a board member, officer, or one of these fiduciary staff members is a duty of loyalty. You must put the organization first, not your personal interests or your personal unique spin on what the organization should do, but the organization and itself as an entity and what its goals are, not necessarily your personal goals. They may align, sometimes they may not, but it's the organization first. That duty of loyalty means that to the extent that there are policies and procedures, you need to follow them just the same as the staff does and the officers do, or volunteers if you have volunteers and you have policies for them. You're just like everybody else and you have to abide by those policies and procedures. And you need to be very loyal and keep in confidence the confidential information of the board. So if the board's having discussions about sensitive issues, it is your duty not to talk about those outside the board to others, unless there's a specific reason that you're talking to some officer within the organization, or an accountant, a lawyer, a banker, or whatever, but you keep that confidential. That's an essential part of your duty of loyalty to the board. The next duty is the duty of care. And the duty of care is basically how you operate as a board member. This duty means that you actually attend the meetings, you read the materials that are given to you. If they're voluminous, at least you make an effort to read all those materials, and you make an effort to keep up and to know what the organization's programs are, what their activities are, and where its budget stands. So as a board member, whether you have monthly or periodic meetings, you want to know where the organization sits at that point. You want to know financially how things are going, how our program's going, so that you understand the context for your making decisions and managing the big policy level direction. Obviously, if it's a small organization, you may also be doing the day-to-day. But in medium-sized and larger, you're just going to be up here at the policy level. But you need to know what's going on. You can't just show up because it's nice to have your name on a board and you're not really terribly interested or terribly involved. You at least need to pay attention. And that's kind of the essence of your duty of care. Know what's going on, pay attention, go to the meetings, be informed. If things come up in the meetings and you don't really know, then you should seek out the advice of staff that's very familiar with the issue, officers, or your other advisors, your accountant, your lawyer, or other appropriate expertise, depending on the issue that's involved, so that you're making an informed decision. Kind of like medical informed consent, you should be informed about deciding. The duty of obedience is the third legally mandated duty, and this is obedience to the law. So you must abide by the laws that apply to your organization, but it's also obedience to the articles and the bylaws of your organization. Oftentimes people don't know what they say. So when you have the new board members, they should be given the articles and the bylaws so that they know the governance framework of the organization. Sometimes I work with organizations and they haven't looked at those in 20 years, 30 years, and they have X number of board members, and it turns out they're not allowed to have X number of board members. But, you know, they've been doing it for a long time and nobody went back to the documents to check. It's part of good governance would be to periodically go back and look at your articles, look at your bylaws. Are they fitting your needs today? This is not to drum up work for lawyers, but do they fit? Do you want more directors? Do you want less directors? Do you want to have set meetings on only this date? Or do you want flexibility for the board to be able to set meetings? Little things like that in terms of the governance. So your obedience duty is to the law, the federal law, state law, your articles, your bylaws, and if you have policies and procedures, then you too must follow them. If you have expense reimbursement policies, they apply to you as well as to the staff and to the officers. You should have a prudent approach to it. You can't just, go out to the Holly Kalani for dinner and because it's a board meeting and wouldn't that be great? That's not necessarily appropriate. There's an emerging duty that's not fully come to be accepted in all 50 states, but it's emerging in case law, and that's a duty of candor. That means that you need to talk to each other and be board members, officers, staff. Be candid so that if a decision is coming up before the board, the people who are affected know, and they know all of the important parameters of the decision so they can make an informed decision. Sometimes things are not said for the good of the order, maybe, or the perception of the good of the order, but this duty is becoming important because it turns out, as we see some of these scandals in corporate as well as non-corporate areas, people made decisions they didn't really know what they were deciding. They didn't know the implications. So the duty of candor is an important emerging duty, but it's not a duty. But it makes good sense for trust with your community, with all of your constituents, your volunteers. And it doesn't mean, every nitty-gritty little thing has to be told, but enough that you can make an informed decision.